Here to debate Independent Women's Forum member Inez Stepman and Democratic strategist Jason Nichols. Thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it. It was definitely a long night with that rally. I mean, it was almost 2 hours. The president was really fired up. Inez, I'll start with you. Let's talk about the discrepancy between what was going on inside and what was going on outside.
Absolutely. I think that discrepancy can only help the president. Americans are so divided today about almost every institution in our lives, from Congress to the media. There's very low approval ratings. The only one of the very few institutions left in this country that actually has majority support and trust is the police, is law enforcement, and that's from Pew over time. So definitely, I think this helps the president, especially when compared with the behavior of the protesters outside, calling cops pigs, rioting. This is not behavior that the American people support, and they're much more in line with the president on this than they were with the folks outside, that's for sure.
You know, Jason, as all this was unfolding, I was obviously watching like lots of folks were, and Senator Tim Scott was on, and, you know, from South Carolina, he said, these protesters, they have the right to protest, but not the right to be violent. What did you think about what all was happening?
Well, I don't think anyone was hurt, as you know, I saw reported. You saw some people burning MAGA hats. They were not protesting law enforcement. They were protesting the president. And I do think, you know, that this actually bodes pretty well for Democrats when you look at the fact that President Trump's poll numbers are down 14 points in the state of Minnesota, in a state that he lost by 45,000 votes. So I don't think it's going to get any better because of this, especially with all of the controversy that he's embroiled in right now. It doesn't look very good for him in Minnesota.
You know, Jason, he only lost it by, what, 1.5%, and he only visited the state once, and he already had a huge turnout with this rally. So you don't think that things might be a little bit different this time around?
So the poll numbers that I'm citing that say that he's down 14 points were from September 19th. Now, of course, we know, as a Fox News poll said, that the majority of Americans think he should be removed. So I think that that's before the controversy, the current controversy. I think he's really hurting, and this is why you see the desperation, why he's, you know, talking for 2.5 hours, why he's trotting out the vice president around the country. He's in trouble.
Yeah, Inez, let's go back to some of these protests that were happening outside, though. You know, Jason, they were protesting the police. You could see some of their signs visible, lining up in front of the police. You can see in some of the video that we're watching right there. So, Inez, just to jump off of what you were saying, do you think that this will actually work against Democrats?
I think that's right. We see a lot of polls, and generally the president's popularity as being in the low 40s, and a lot of political hay has been made out of that. But that was true in 2016 as well, which means there are a lot of people out there who may not necessarily approve of everything the president says or does, but ended up voting for him in 2016. And the more scenes we see, like the one outside this rally in Minneapolis, I think the more people in the middle are going to say, well, we might not agree with President Trump on everything. We might not approve of the job he's doing in every aspect, but they might be willing to vote for him quietly, especially when they see this kind of intimidation. There was a lot of intimidation of people who wanted to come to this rally and express their political opinions. And so I think that there's often that gap between outright approval of President Trump and then people who are willing to vote for him when they see that this is what the left is.
Yeah, Jason, I mean, and I know you want to make a comment about that, but as we all know, the polls were very wrong last time around.
Well, again, I think that Hillary Clinton had low approval ratings as well. So I think that's 2016 was a totally different case where you had two very unpopular candidates going head to head. But at the same time, the one thing that I will say is I don't think that this rally is going to turn anything one way or the other. I think when you talk about a rally that's going to turn things, you talk about Charlottesville, where people were actually lost their lives, were hurt. And those people were, you know, wearing MAGA hats and were, you know, we saw the president's response was irresponsible. So I think that's the rally that people are going to remember. That's what the Democrats are going to pound the president on, is his lack of leadership there.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother debate, though. Lots of folks saying, and actually, if you listen to his words, which we can't even get into that because that's a completely different story. But a lot of folks disagree with you there on Jason. Jason, Inez, thank you both for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.